19 years. That's how long it's been since Luke Durbin, a 19-year-old from rural Suffolk, walked away from a taxi office in the early morning hours and vanished. No mobile phone, no wallet, no confirmed sightings, no trace. It was just after 4 a.m. when he was last seen, caught on grainy CCTV crossing a street in central Ipswich. 10 minutes later, a car with fake plates drove through the same area. No one has been able to say what happened in those crucial moments. And no one has seen Luke since. Over the years, the case has been reclassified as suspected murder. People have been arrested. Fields have been searched. Fraud has been committed in Luke's name. And yet, the truth has remained stubbornly out of reach. What started as a normal night out with friends would become one of Britain's most enduring missing person mysteries. Welcome to Bad Things. Join us as we retrace Luke Durbin's final movements, break down the theories, and examine what most likely happened. A quiet life in Suffolk. Luke Durbin was born on the 4th of December 1986 and grew up in Halsley, a small village near Woodbridge in Suffolk, England. He lived with his mother, Nikki, and younger sister, Alicia. The family was close-knit, and those around Luke described him as kind, affectionate, and laid back. He played the guitar, cared deeply about his family, and had recently started a job at a greengrocer in Aldborough, a move that seemed to give him a sense of direction. After a short stint studying music technology in Colchester, Luke had dropped out, disliking the long commute. He had taken on odd jobs in the meantime, but seemed more settled in the weeks before he disappeared. He was happy, relaxed, and optimistic, his mother later recalled. He'd often bring home groceries from work and cook meals for the family. His disappearance was described by Nikki as a parent's worst nightmare, because Luke had always kept in close contact. Suddenly vanishing without explanation was deeply out of character. 11th of May 2006, a night out in Ipswich. On Thursday, 11th of May 2006, Luke arranged to go out with friends in Ipswich, a larger town nearby. The plan was to meet up with one of his close friends, Alex, a chef who was visiting home from London. Luke even took the following day off work so he could enjoy the evening without having to worry about the morning after. That evening, Luke rode his motorbike to Alex's house in Woodbridge, leaving it parked there along with his phone, wallet, keys, and a change of clothes. He didn't want to lose anything on the night out, a detail that would become critical later. Luke, Alex, and another friend named Zach first stopped at a pub in Woodbridge before heading into Ipswich, where they went to Zest nightclub, a popular venue in the town centre. But like so many stories that start with a group night out, things didn't end that way. At some point in the club, the friends became separated. Alex had drunk heavily and took a taxi home earlier. Zach lost contact with Luke at the bar. From that point on, Luke was alone in the early hours of the morning in an unfamiliar part of town. 12th of May 2006, the last known movements. Luke's known movements between 2 and 4 a.m. were later reconstructed using CCTV footage and witness statements. Around 2 a.m., Luke left Zest nightclub. He walked to Ipswich train station, roughly a 5-minute walk from the club, and inquired about getting home. He was told that no trains were running at that hour. Without his phone or money, he was stuck. 3:45 a.m. CCTV captured Luke at the Hawk Express taxi's office on Old Foundry Road. He tried to arrange a taxi home to Woodbridge. The dispatcher told him he could call someone to provide credit card details, but Luke declined. He didn't want to wake his mother, police later reported. Unable to pay, he left on foot. 4 a.m. A town centre camera recorded Luke crossing the zebra crossing on Dogs Head Street, heading toward Ipswich's old cattle market bus station. It is the last confirmed image of Luke Durbin. Only minutes later, at around 4:10 a.m., another camera recorded a silver or white Volvo 440 driving through Orwell Place, just blocks away. The car's plates, M206LYE, were later discovered to be fake. The occupants of the vehicle were never identified. The car was labeled a vehicle of interest, but no direct link to Luke could be established. Morning. No show at work. Rising concern. When Luke didn't come home that morning, no immediate alarm bells rang. It wasn't unusual for him to crash at a friend's place after a night out. But as Friday wore on, concern began to grow. Luke had deliberately taken the day off work so he could stay out late, yet he hadn't contacted anyone, hadn't picked up his motorbike, and his belongings, phone, keys, and spare clothes, were still untouched at Alex's house. By Saturday afternoon, the 13th of May, after nearly 48 hours without a word from him, Nikki Durbin went to the police and reported her son missing. Initial police response. The police took the case seriously from the start. Ground teams searched on foot, with police dogs and helicopters combing Ipswich and surrounding areas. They went through Luke's mobile records and contacted over 100 people connected to him. Zest nightclub and local taxi firms were all questioned. Still no trace. As Suffolk police would later say, it was as if Luke vanished into thin air. Using CCTV, police retraced Luke's steps from the nightclub to the train station, the taxi office, and then toward the bus station. But after that 4 a.m. footage, Luke disappears from all surveillance. In the days that followed, unconfirmed sightings trickled in. A witness claimed to see someone matching Luke's description near Foxhall Stadium, east of Ipswich, at around 7:30 to 8 a.m. on the 12th of May. Years later, in 2011, this lead prompted a full-scale search of the surrounding woodland. Nothing was found. 2 witnesses reported seeing a person resembling Luke in Woodbridge on Saturday, the 13th of May, around midday. This individual was seen in the passenger seat of a dark blue Renault Megane near the Turbine Centre car park, driven by an unknown man. No CCTV or physical evidence confirmed this sighting. In March 2007, a former classmate claimed she saw Luke near Drury Lane in London, outside the Aldwych Theatre. She was 80% sure. Police investigated. Nothing came of it. None of these leads could be verified. The case evolves. Months turned into years. Luke's case appeared on BBC's Crime Watch in November 2006, but no solid tips emerged. By 2010, the case was reclassified as a suspected murder and handed to the Norfolk and Suffolk Joint Major Investigation Team. In 2011, police discovered that someone had tried to use Luke's identity for online shopping. A man and woman were arrested in Brixton, London, for identity fraud, but no direct connection to Luke could be proven. Then in 2012, 2 men were arrested on suspicion of murder. One was 40, the other 25. They were questioned and released. No charges were brought. A potential breakthrough occurred in 2014 when a small bone was found near Alford, not far from Woodbridge. Forensic testing later revealed it was from a deer. By 2015, police turned renewed focus to the Volvo 440, seen shortly after Luke's last confirmed sighting. It had false plates, and police believed it may have ties to criminal activity in the area. A £20,000 reward was offered. 6 people called in after the appeal. None provided viable leads. In 2020, a Channel 5 documentary shed new light on the case. For the first time, police mentioned aspects of Luke's life that hadn't been publicly discussed before, including certain associations that, in hindsight, may have put him at risk. We'll come back to that. Each year, on the anniversary of his disappearance, Nikki Durbin makes a public appeal. In 2025, on the 19th anniversary, she said, "It can't possibly be that he's been missing as long as we had him. I don't want punishment. I just want to know where my son's body is. Despite decades of appeals, arrests, searches, and investigations, Luke Durbin remains missing. No body, no suspects, no confirmed final destination. Number 1. A random encounter gone wrong. This theory begins with something ordinary. A young man alone in the early morning hours, disoriented and without his phone or wallet, looking for a way home. Under this view, Luke was a target of opportunity. He may have been approached by someone offering a ride, looking to rob him, or simply seeking trouble. With no means to call for help or defend himself, he would have been especially vulnerable. The presence of the silver or white Volvo 440, spotted just 10 minutes after Luke's final confirmed sighting, becomes pivotal here. Its false plates, inability to be traced, and proximity to the bus station all point to something suspicious. As Detective Superintendent John Brocklebank noted in 2015, the false registration plate is significant. Someone went to the effort to disguise that vehicle. We want to know why. What happened after that moment remains guesswork. Was Luke lured inside the vehicle? Was he assaulted, kidnapped, or killed? If so, how was the crime concealed so completely? Skeptics of this theory point out the lack of physical evidence. Even in cases of random violence, some trace is usually left behind. A personal item, a witness, a body. In Luke's case, there's nothing. Number 2. Targeted violence linked to a drug debt. A more recent and disturbing theory suggests that Luke was targeted not by chance, but because of criminal connections and a drug debt. This theory emerged publicly only in 2020, following the broadcast of Missing or Murdered, the disappearance of Luke Durbin on Channel 5. For the first time, Suffolk police confirmed that Luke had been involved in small-scale drug dealing and may have owed money to a group linked to a county lines network operating between Suffolk and Brixton. Detective Brocklebank, who led the case, stated bluntly, "We believe Luke was involved in the supply of cannabis. He was in debt to people you wouldn't want to be in debt to. And in those circles, that can lead to very serious consequences." According to police, Luke may have carried out a drug deal in Woodbridge just hours before his night out. That detail, combined with the suspicion of a criminal network monitoring his movements, suggests a chilling possibility: that Luke was deliberately silenced to settle a score. The Volvo 440 again takes center stage. Retired detectives now believe it may have been tied to this same criminal world. The false plates and untraceable ownership only strengthen that theory. Still, others remain skeptical. Why dispose of Luke so thoroughly over a relatively small debt? Why was there no message, no warning to others, as such gangs often send? And yet, if Luke was involved with dangerous people and they feared exposure, or simply wanted to send a message internally, the decision might not have needed much justification at all. Number 3. An accidental death, voluntary disappearance, or unplanned encounter. This third theory is less focused but more open-ended. It combines several overlapping possibilities, all centering on the idea that Luke's disappearance was not planned by others, but stemmed from personal choices, bad luck, or a single tragic encounter. Under one variation, Luke may have suffered an accident. He was alone, likely intoxicated, and navigating an unfamiliar urban environment. Could he have slipped, fallen into water, or wandered into a derelict building? If so, his body was never found, not even during later searches around Vauxhall Stadium, where a witness claimed to see someone matching Luke's description around 7:30 to 8 a.m. Another variation imagines Luke stumbling into a dangerous but non-targeted encounter. Someone picks a fight. A confrontation turns fatal. Fear drives a cover-up. That scenario could explain the absence of evidence. If someone panicked and successfully disposed of a body. Finally, there's the voluntary disappearance angle. Could Luke have simply chosen to leave, perhaps due to pressures, debt, fear, secrets, or the law of a fresh start. Those who support this theory point to the London sighting in 2007 and the identity fraud in Brixton that same year. Was Luke trying to live under the radar? Yet this theory has always rung hollow to those who knew him best. As his mother Nikki Durbin stated, "If Luke were alive, he wouldn't let us go through this. He'd find a way to let us know he was okay." None of these angles are impossible, but they rely on chance, silence, and a near-perfect disappearance, something that rarely happens, even in cases of misadventure or accidental death. "19 years later, with no confirmed sightings, no physical evidence and no body, the disappearance of Luke Durbin remains one of the most unsettling, unresolved cases in the UK. But even in the absence of hard proof, certain patterns emerge, and when we strip away theories that demand large assumptions, one scenario holds. Luke was likely the victim of targeted violence connected to a drug-related death. On the 11th of May 2006, Luke had a night out planned with friends. What was not publicly known until years later is that he had also allegedly completed a drug deal earlier that day, a detail disclosed by Suffolk police in a 2020 documentary. Luke, they confirmed, had become entangled in small-scale cannabis dealing and was believed to owe money to individuals linked to a Country Lines network operating between Suffolk and Brixton. That piece of information shifts the framework. The image of Luke as an unlucky partygoer becomes something darker, someone with a known debt, known habits, and known routines. By 4 a.m. on the 12th of May, Luke was alone in central Ipswich. He'd been separated from his friends, turned away from the train station, and declined to wake his mother when offered the chance to call for a taxi. He had no phone, no wallet, no money, and no transportation. The final confirmed CCTV footage shows him walking across Dog's Head Street, heading in the direction of the bus station. Then he disappears. 10 minutes later, a silver or white Volvo 440 drives through Orwell Place, a street just blocks away from where Luke was last seen. The vehicle's license plates are fake. To this day, it has never been identified. Police have publicly referred to it as a vehicle of major interest, and in 2015, they issued a £20,000 reward for information. No one came forward. What happened in that 10-minute gap? The most likely explanation is that someone in that criminal network either already knew Luke's plans or was actively watching for him. Suffolk police have said they believe Luke was being watched. That wouldn't have required complex tracking. All it would take is for someone in Woodbridge to relay his movements, or for someone to follow the group into Ipswich. Once Alex and Zach were out of the picture, Luke was vulnerable, alone, stuck. By the time he walked away from the taxi office, whoever was looking for him may already have known where to wait. The train station, the bus terminal, the taxi depot. These are the logical places someone would go if stranded late at night. Finding Luke wouldn't have required luck. It would have required intention. The Volvo's timing and anonymity strongly suggest it wasn't a random passerby. The use of false plates indicates premeditation. Someone was driving a vehicle they did not want linked back to them, through the exact area where Luke vanished, at the exact time he became unreachable. That's not coincidence, that's design. In that scenario, Luke may have gotten into the car willingly, perhaps recognizing someone or believing he was being offered a ride. What followed would have taken place out of view. A confrontation, a forced detour, a fatal act. His body was never found, suggesting it was deliberately concealed, possibly locally, possibly further afield, by people experienced in covering their tracks. Other theories collapse under scrutiny. Voluntary disappearance doesn't hold. Luke left behind everything: his phone, motorbike, keys, and most importantly, his close-knit family. If Luke were alive, He'd have reached out, his mother Nikki has said. He just wouldn't let us suffer like this. The possibility of an accidental death can't be entirely ruled out, but it struggles to account for the complete absence of remains, particularly given the extensive searches around Foxhall and other likely areas. As for the theory of random violence, it raises difficult logistical questions. The idea that someone entirely unconnected to Luke, driving a car with false plates, happened to be in that exact area at that exact time feels unlikely, though not impossible. More than anything, it's the combination of timing, motive, and silence that makes a targeted scenario seem more plausible. The presence of an untraceable vehicle, Luke's alleged drug-related debt, and the fact that no trace of him has ever surfaced, all of it leans toward an outcome that, while perhaps not meticulously premeditated, appears calculated enough to leave no trail behind. On the 19th anniversary of her son's disappearance, Nikki Durbin said, "I'm not looking for punishment. I just want to know where my son is, so I can lay him to rest." And that's the unbearable truth at the heart of this case. Someone, likely more than one person, knows exactly where Luke Durbin went after 4 a.m. Someone made sure he would never be seen again.